You know, when it comes for PC gaming, I actually started myself with an LCD monitor. So I did use CRTs, particularly when it comes to just normal TVs. And I can still remember on my high school we actually had CRTs with these old school flat desktop models. But this is not like your typical one. This is a Samsung ThinkMaster 750S. I know there are a lot of grills and a very nice Dell monitor out there and many different brands, but this is going to be a fun video today. I think this is going to be interesting to showcase with different kind of applications. So yep, we just have a VGA connection. That is what we're going to be needing to deal with today, but I did find a couple of products that can be connected to this. So you can see the stickers on the side over there because the previous owner actually used this in CRT mode. Yep, he actually 90 degrees flipped the screen and actually used it to play old school shmups. That is another very cool way to play, and maybe we can do a separate video about that because I have some really cool ideas where we can combine this with certain mainboards and do this a very easy plug and play way. Join me on the channel because we're going to be connecting, testing out. We're not going to be messing with this because yeah, this is kind of a simple stand, but we're going to be messing with the monitor and playing some games. Where there are many different ways to play and many applications, I actually wanted to have 3 of them today. So we're going to be using a desktop and PlayStation 2 with a VGA connection that is quite unique, and we're going to be having a single player Pandora's box. Of course you can use a 2-player if you want to, but you know, we can do some pretty cool things and the overall experience are going to be interesting. So with a mini PC like this, we do have like a VGA port, so that's going to be super easy to plug in and just play. Then of course we're going to be having this super slim model, and I think for playing retro games like Command & Conquer, it's a Quake 3, Unreal Tournament, we can do this very fine, and this will be absolutely interesting thing to check out. And of course we're having the PlayStation 2 with a VGA connector, yeah, and customized AliExpress machine with a built-in microSD card and also HDMI, but we're going to be using the VGA connection, and then we're going to be having a Pandora's box because these things can actually utilize an old school connection, and let's hook it up to a CRT. How will that actually look? So that's what we're going to be starting up with today, and I think this is going to be absolutely exciting, or at least I think it's going to be exciting because I wanted to make this video for a long time. But let's take a close look at the ThinkMaster combined with the Pandora's box. So where there are many different ways to play on this thing, I'm just looking for the on-off switch. There we go. So I'm actually using not, let's say, the latest Pandora's box. This is the Pandora's box CX. So what is interesting, I think this is a pretty cool overall configuration that we can just put this arcade machine up front over here. So that they also have built-in sound. I can see it works flawlessly, or at least flawless in a certain way. Let me explain what I mean with that. The image itself is crisp and clear on the Samsung. However, when you're going to looking at the way how the image projects on this, it is not perfect. So you can actually see that it has to do with the small combination of the tube. You can see small overall cutoff, and you know, it has to do with the tube itself, but also when it comes to the image. There is something we can do about it, but this is not compatible with every Pandora's box. So what do I mean with this? If you're going to be holding the setting button, pressing it once will go into the settings. But if you're going to be turning it off, you're going to be holding the setting buttons, you're going to be turning off on and off the machine itself, you will see it will boot up into a different resolution. So I think some of them have like 3 of them, and one of them is 640 by 480, I think it's called. Nevertheless, yeah, this doesn't do anything at the moment because I messed it up. I need to hold the button. But in this case, you're going to be having the option to actually boot up and switch in different modes. I did notice is that when it comes to the Pandora's box itself, I didn't see a lot of different resolutions. With the CX, I think there were only 2 of them. And in here you can actually see that we do have like a bezel underneath and at the left over there. But the overall image, it's better now. It's not cut off, I think it is. No, not really. But this is another way to play. But I'm going to be switching back to the other resolution where it's a little bit cut off. It will fill the screen perfectly. But also you can actually see on the text and everything, it looks so much crisp and clear now. So it's more like a personal preference. So with a CRT, for me personally, it gives absolutely a very cool authentic feeling. So the downside, it is actually that I'm having this filter, and the filter itself has been set to having overall, like say, polished filter. I mean, everything looks a little bit weird or not authentic as it can be, but still, it's more like a personal preference too. But we can actually do something about it later on. So if you're going to be pressing the pause button, we can go back to the menu. And the overall emulation is pretty okay with many of the games itself. But let's take a close look at, let's say, the overall settings. Can we actually change out? Let's see if I can find a button over here. Where is it? Where is the tiny button? I can't find it! Oh, there we go. So let's take a close look at the system configuration and let's see how the overall settings are. So scan lines have been set to off. You can actually turn it on and off if you want to. I'm not a big fan of it, but the quality optimization, that needs to be turned off. We're going to be leaving the scan lines as it is. And we're going to be just doing it like this way, because I thought like it's absolutely cool to have like this Pandora box on a CRT. But when it comes to the overall filter, this is not the way how you want to play. So let's move into some Mortal Kombat and let's see how this will look with the overall filter disabled. The image itself, I think this looks so much better, where you're going to be looking at the way how the characters and everything are just having not of the weird filter going on. So yeah, this is a more authentic way to play when it comes for the old school arcade games. So, and again, like where the CX is not the best Pandora's box out there, you know, this is going to be a lot of fun. Let's see if we can still win this match. I'm going to be getting my ass whooped by Sub-Zero today. No, I'm not clapping with you. But what is cool with the Pandora's box, some of these devices actually utilize more than arcade games. We can actually play some PlayStation 1. A lot of fun if you ask me. However, when it comes to emulation performance, there's also a little bit debatable situation, because we did notice some of the Pandora's boxes, even newer ones, have problems. The button mapping, I think there is nothing actually we can change out. It's one of the things they later on fixed, because overall button mapping is completely messed up, where like the buttons are actually crossed. Normally having over here, I think these are the punch and they are like the kick, and they just mess everything up. But if you're going to be playing some Pandora's box and you actually want to use the CRT mode, if I'm saying it correctly, and you want to actually like switch the monitor itself, and I mean particularly not in the software, but particularly only like when you're going to be switching the monitor itself and you're going to be tweaking, yeah, you can actually do that with some of the Pandora's boxes, and that would be actually like fun to check out. So for example, if you want to go into the Pac-Man, what I love about the CX, we do actually have a search function. But if you want to play, for example, in Donpachi, you can actually play it now, but you're going to be having two massive sidebars. And this is the way that we actually need to play now. It's quite unfortunate, because it would absolutely be awesome to have an option. We do have like quick load, quick save and a turbo function that has been asked me before starting up the game. Didn't make any recordings of it. But you're going to be playing, yeah, CRT mode is only enabled. I think it was the DX Plus that had the option to actually switch between different modes. So that would be absolutely awesome. But so far, this game runs pretty good, and I can tell you, if you don't mind the two massive bars, you can just play it this particular way. Wow, this game is brutal. Woohoo! Triple power up. But we do have different kind of games. For example, having the Pac-Man games. So Pac-Man is absolutely one of my favorite games to play. But when it comes to the Pac-Man games, of course, the screen is not perfect when it comes to the resolution. We're not going to be having the same configuration like with the CRT mode game sometimes. But with this particular, configuration, we're going to be having still massive sidebars. So depending on what kind of Pac-Man you want to play, so let's move into the Pac-Man Plus. And so there are many different variations. And let's see if this is also having the massive sidebars, or is this going to be full screen. And yep, this is also going to be the same situation. Yep. So that's what's going on when it comes for playing with a Pandora older edition. So still, if you're going to be looking into, let's say, some other, let's say, systems, there are many different systems on some of these things. So let's say if you want to go into the Neo Geo mode, you can also do that. And this way we can actually play on the CRT as well. I'm having full screen. In the past I actually messed around with an LCD that actually has a full battery semi-resolution. But also this seems to be working fine. And we do have like a save state over here. Yeah, it was like a great moment to actually like make a save. But overall functionality, putting in, let's say, in simple, not the best Pandora's box on this, you know, can even play a lot of games if it comes to mainly Neo Geo. And some of the Pandora's boxes, I think it even utilizes some of the old school games. And this wiggle stick, oh man, look at this. Like, I freaking hate this stick. I would replace it with a real somehow because it's way too sensitive. Way too sensitive. Let's see if this thing actually has the original Sega, or is this going to be the arcade version, because that is another thing that you do have seen before. Yeah, this is the MegaTech version. Yeah, this sounds really horrible. But the idea is like to run fast as possible through the stage. I think was an absolutely awesome challenge. One credit, let's see if we can still finish the stage under a certain time. Oh, didn't have enough speed. Got like 15 seconds to go. Let's go. Can we finish it? Oh yeah, there we go. Oh, messed the part up again. But we do have enough range. Woo! Oh, my ears are bleeding. But let's finish this part of the video and let's continue that later on, because we do have so many different Pandora boxes and CRT Mode Activated would be awesome. So let's move into the unique PlayStation 2. But let's take a close look at the PlayStation 2 Micro. So this is a unique device that has been made by somebody in actually in China, because they are making these all kind of unique with HDMI implemented, and this tiny button actually switches between the VGA output, having a micro SD card, OPL with the memory card at the front. I know there's a thicker one that actually has the option for using original disc. Yeah, that would also be cool. But let's connect this one. Of course, this is a unique situation, so let's boot up the system itself. I don't know exactly if I need to push in the button at the back. If it comes to the VGA, oh, I see the monitor actually here and see that it actually has a signal. And let's see if it boot up. And yep, it actually boot up. How cool is that? Having a VGA output, and I can tell you this image looks really cool, crisp and clear. But an old school CRT don't have the audio capabilities, so we actually implemented an extra speaker. Just have this soundbar, semi-soundbar thingy from Battletron that I actually like connected to the PlayStation 2. I actually did it like this. So over here we're going to be having an audio jack at the back next to the old school VGA connector, and this way we can actually play the games on a VGA monitor, and I can tell you that the overall graphics looks pretty good. I'm surprised how well this looks, and you know, this combination is quite unique because of course the original doesn't have a VGA port at all. But playing the PlayStation 2 on a monitor like this is pretty cool. I know I've been talking with some other guys collecting these particular, let's say, monitors, and I think the ThinkMaster 750S look amazing. But I know out there are even better ones out there with an even crisp and clearer image. And if you're going to be having those, you're going to be comparing this with this particular model, and you're going to be playing some old school games with the PlayStation 2 this particular way. Oh yeah, this is going to be absolutely freaking cool. It's such a fun game. And in the next part, let's move to this tiny mini PC, the Acer. And I can tell you this is such a cool thing because it does actually have Windows XP. So let's play some retro games on this. You know, this is actually the setup I wanted to recreate in part of my gaming studio, where it's some to hook up on Pandora or in PlayStation 2 or something else. I just want to use this for some old school PC gaming. So let's boot up some Windows XP and let's see how the overall experience is nowadays. So regarding the picture itself, I think I need to do a little bit of adjusting, or I'm guessing. So the overall pixels that we're going to be using is 1280-bit 1024, if my camera wants to focus. Using 32-bit colors, and I think there is nothing much we can do over here. Maybe you can adjust it a little bit. No. So I think this is something that has to do with the monitor itself. I actually need to adjust the overall, let's say, size, which you can see over here. Yes. And maybe this was one of the things I should do with at the first place with another device I've connected to this thing. So let's load up into the Windows XP old school glory days. So I think I'm not going to be using this particular mini PC. I think I'm going to be rebuilding something else where we're going to be playing also a little bit of modern games with. Think about maybe in Crisis, something at that time area. It's going to be absolutely fun to do so. So I think my audio is not ready to go at this point. Man, this is such an interesting overall, let's say. Haha! Starting off with some Red Alert 2.
Ready to roll. New construction options.
This is a game I played so much and I still love to play. And I can tell you, playing this on the CRT brings back so many memories. I actually did play this game on many different monitors back in the day. But when you're going to be looking into, let's say, play some old school Red Alert 2 on this, I can tell you that when you're looking at the image, it's such an overall different experience when you're going to be comparing this with an LCD. Where I actually started playing on LCD, I think that brand called Magic or something. Yep, because it was actually Magic back in the day, having an LCD display with your computer. But I can tell you that when seeing this, actually, I'm flabbergasted how well and how good everything looks when it comes to that. So, but let's just playing something in a fast-paced game, because this is what we're going to be most of the time the biggest improving situation, having compared this with an older LCD display. Gaming with a shooter. Whoa, I got a crazy amount of speed in my mouse. Just shoot 2 rockets right up in his face, and he didn't freaking die off. Ooh, that one was very well timed. Shoot him in, rocket in his ass. Woohoo! I need to do a little bit of practicing again. Woo!
You have taken the lead.
But you know, when it comes to these mini PCs, they're super convenient, simply because of the size, and they're still more powerful enough to run most of these old school games. But what I wanted to do, what I mentioned before, I just wanted to go into more in-depth of different games, playing a little bit newer games. But still, if you want to just play some real Quake 3, this is just perfect. But like with the Red Alert 2 game, I do need to do a little bit of adjusting of the overall, let's say, settings. But let's have some fun with some UT, because this is such a really cool game. I am getting shot by everybody over here. But I don't want to freaking shoot because I don't have a gun. There we go. There we go, bitches. Ow. And of course, we can play Doom. Can I play with a mouse cursor? No, this one doesn't support the mouse. You have the Brutal game, the Brutal Doom, that one is pretty cool. The only downside I did notice when it comes to certain games, over here we have adjusted the display already. So this is set to a different resolution, where this looks completely out of sync. So that is a little bit of a bummer. Let's see if there is anything going on over here. Geometry? No, there's something else. Advanced. Let's see what we can do over here. Video input level, color temperatures. What is this? Oh. So, you know, this is going to be a thingy that we're going to be messing around with the display a lot. For example, over here, if we're going to be messing in here, we can actually adjust it manually. I thought like there was maybe an option we can do it this way. Alright, so it seems to be going back to the menu. It seems to be saving it or some kind, because the display is perfectly matched now or to the overall frame. So there's not going to be a problem adjusting the overall, let's say, settings for a certain game. To make this video even more wicked, I thought like, how cool would it be if we're going to be using this component to SCART and VGA. I'm more like, what? VGA? I got this thing for free. I don't know exactly where it was, but you know, this is interesting. So we're going to be having over here, so we're having the VGA that we're going to be using for connection because it has VGA out. We're going to be putting the component in here, input for the audio. Alright, let's see if it's going to be working. Let's power it on. So component cable has been connected to the converter, and let's see if something going on with the signal itself. Nah. I think this freaking thing doesn't work at all, or the console is not recognizing the converter itself. I don't see any LEDs powering on. No, the power supply. Oh, I do see an LED underneath. So it should normally work, but nope. There are so many different ways to utilize a VGA monitor, and you know, the simple Pandora's box can have like such an overall fun, different experience now. And you know, the PlayStation 2 is of course a little bit niche, simply because these things don't come built in with VGA. But if you just have an old school PC like an Acer, connect this, I can tell you I was flabbergasted of the overall experience. Yep, just the way how this crisp, clear display is, compared with, let's say, an LCD display. It gives me some really old school vibes. Thank you all for watching. Let me know what do you think, and it will be great to see you in the next video.